Hello, lovely people. It's Nicola, back in the Stitches and Slapdashery living room. It's been a few days, hasn't it? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I was working, and those went by in a flash. Yesterday, though, had a really fun time with my friends. I had, I think, 4 friends come over in the morning. So I got up at 7 and I was on the go for 3 hours, making sure that the bathrooms and the kitchen were presentable and getting all my craft stuff up to the dining room table. And that was fun, although 3 of them brought their knitting and the other one did a little bit in a colouring book I had, and I did a bit of adult colouring book as well, and a little bit of scribbling. Nothing worth showing you, really. Not very exciting at all. The afternoon was very relaxing. I got the dinner set up fairly early on because it needed to go in the oven for an hour, and I got quite a bit of crochet done. I've been crocheting on the Faraway sweater every day except one since I started it. I meant to look up what date I started it, but it wasn't that long ago. I think it was maybe only about 10 days ago. So I'll show you that in a minute. But first, a little laugh. You may remember that I showed you a watercolor painting I did. I hesitate to call it that because it sounds very fancy, but it was just throw a bunch of paint in stripes, horizontal stripes, on the page and see what it looked like when it dried. And then I added some things to it. If you're on Instagram and you've seen the picture of the finished item, you'll know what it looks like already. So what I ended up doing is I used a piece of pine branch, very small piece of pine branch from my garden, and I pressed it into a rubber stamp ink pad, and then I just pressed it onto the paper on both sides. And then I got a tissue, V-necks, whatever you want to call it. I pressed that into the ink and then just did some stuff across the bottom, just a texture, and then added a few little birds up in the sky. But the funny thing is a couple of people, when I shared this to Instagram and Facebook, a couple of my Facebook friends made a comment about what looked like, as in what they could see in the sky. Let me see if you can tell what they were talking about. Can you see that shape in the sky? You can tell what they thought it looked like, right? I thought I was the one with a dirty mind, but as it turns out, my husband and my boss were the ones who noticed it and pointed it out. Oh well, I still think it's pretty. And I'll probably put it on the wall in my sewing room and ignore those comments, as it were. Okay, let's look at the sweater. I noticed last night I got to the point where I felt like my right thumb joint was starting to hurt, and I thought, okay, maybe I've been overdoing the crochet a bit lately, but I hope that it's not going to stop me from crocheting, because I have another crochet project that I'm about to start to use up some stash. So this is the sweater so far. It is, as suspected, an XL rather than the L that I wanted it to turn out at. The body is pretty wide. I think the body is finished. I tried it on again today and I'm pretty happy with the length of it. It is a cropped length. And hopefully I'm not scratching the microphone with this. It's a fairly cropped length, but when it's an oversized width, I feel like going longer would just make it look even too voluminous. So it's probably finished, but the yarn ball is still attached at the bottom there. And then for the sleeves, I used a different dye lot. So I don't think there was any difference in the dye lots, not really visible ones anyway. And I did both sleeves to the first 14 rounds. And then I went back and carried on with that first sleeve. I did a little bit of decreasing. Now this is about a 3/4 length sleeve so far. I am going to the wrist because I don't see the point in having a really warm, cozy sweater being a 3/4 length sleeve, much as I love 3/4 sleeves in t-shirts. So that is not finished yet. And it has a ball hanging off it as well. It's going to be quite a few ends to weave in, as you can see. But that's fine. I don't have a problem with weaving in ends because that just means more quality Netflix time or BritBox. So I do love the colours I used. I'm very pleased with that. I added the band down on the body, which wasn't in the original pattern. The original pattern is all one colour except for that one yoke section. And I was thinking of doing a band of colour on the sleeves, but I decided not to. I still have a Yarndale bag full of Lion Brand Heartland. And I could probably make 2 more sweaters out of what's out in that bag. So you've probably noticed that I have my Christmas tree behind me, or my Yule/winter solstice tree. And I know it's the 10th day, and I know you're supposed to take it down on the 6th or by the 6th, but we leave it up for as long as we feel like leaving it up. It's pretty dry. I'm sure there's plenty of needles shedding off it right now. I don't remember to water it very often. And I was going to take it down yesterday after my friends had been over to play. And my husband was like, no, leave it up a bit longer. And I thought, okay, fine. I've got 4 days off in a row. Heaven. And so maybe Sunday I'll take it down. I'll probably leave the lights up though. I've got lights on a wreath in the kitchen and across the dining room window and out on the deck. So what I might do once I've taken the lights off this, I may just add them to a different part of the room so that we've still got that nice glow. You can have just the lights on and you don't have to have the lamps on. And it's a nice way to start the day because it's a soft light. You may have also noticed I attacked my hair today. My t-shirt is really prickly right now. I started to cut my hair with the top on. I thought, oh, I'm going to keep the top on. Well, that was a bad idea, wasn't it? Because you get all of these prickles around your collar. So thankfully, I didn't cut all the colour off. There's still plenty of colour in there. And I hope I did it fairly level. I do like it when it's really, really short on the back and just, follows the shape of my head. And just a little bit longer on the top. It will do for now. I was looking back at my Vlogmas from last year, no, not last year, 2023, because when I was talking about this bag a little while ago, I think it was Jerry mentioned, ooh, how about a tutorial for this bag? And so I wanted to go back and find where I had made it and see if I had said anything about how I made it. Well, on Vlogmas Day 1 in 2023, I did talk about this bag and I showed it off and said what I had done. But of course, there's no measurements or anything mentioned. I never did any sort of how-to on this. So I have taken some measurements of this one. And I was thinking that maybe I could get a tutorial done for this size, but also a medium and a large as well. And the large would hold like an 8.5-inch hoop or whatever you wanted to put in it. But this was designed for a small cross stitch kit with a very small hoop, maybe a 4-inch. But I have a couple of different sizes of hoop as in addition to that one. And maybe soon I'll get around to doing a video for that. Hopefully very soon. Since I talked on, I think, the first video of this year about wanting to use up stash, wanting to use the precious fabrics, and wanting to use up yarn and things like that. I've taken that yarn idea a little further. I don't just want to bust some stash. I'd like to burn it all this year. And I don't mean literally burn it, because that would make toxic fumes, and we wouldn't want that, would we? So I have on the floor right here, I'll show you in a second, all of my worsted weight acrylics and a couple of others that I think will fit with it. There's a couple in there that were supposedly a bulky weight but weren't really a bulky weight. And there's a few that are DK, but if I strand them with the worsted, they should work. I'm thinking 3 strands, fairly large hook, and the pattern I'm now looking at is not the one I initially thought I would use. I did try a little swatch with the Random Rounds blanket from Dora Does, but I didn't like how dense it was coming out. And I didn't like the way I was stranding the colours either. So I only got about this far before abandoning that one. So the one I'm thinking of trying is called it's called No Wool Left Behind. And I cannot remember who the designer is on that, but I will link it underneath, of course. So this No Wool Left Behind. Oh God, Nicola, get your brain in gear. The No Wool Left Behind, it's a round blanket or rug. And I think it's written for 3 strands of DK, and I'm going to mostly use 3 strands of worsted weight. And rather than mixing the colours within each round, I think I'm going to try and graduate the colours from like reds to pinks to greens to blues and that sort of thing, because I've got quite a lot here on the floor. So what I'll do is I will turn you around and I will show you what is strewn around on my living room floor right now. Okay, that was funny. I started filming and I was doing it upside down. So let's start again, just to make sure you're the correct way up. My crochet hook roll is ready for me to pick a suitable hook. I've got some greens, not many greens. I've never been a big fan of green yarn. This is that bulky stuff I used for my Christmas cowl and mitts. It does have a bit of red in it, so it'll fit in somewhere. I should probably use that when I use some of the DK so it balances out the weight. We've got some blues. This mandala actually has blue, white and green in it, so it'll fit somewhere. Got quite a lot of grey. I'm thinking probably at least 1 strand of grey all the way through, perhaps. And then add the extra colours in, but then I might change my mind on that. Hard colours like black don't necessarily make it into the final thing because I like things to blend better. Pinks, oranges. This cream, again, it's not what I call a hard colour, but it's a too light colour that might not fit with the rest, so it probably won't end up in the project. Yellows. And purples. This again, I don't know what weight of yarn this Hobie cookie is, but oh no, Yerbo cookie from Hobie. It's a mix of colours, but it's quite thin. I cannot remember what weight it's supposed to be. It doesn't have the American system of rating on it because, of course, it's not American yarn. This is more of a red, or maybe a red purple, but it was all by itself, so I put it in with the purples. This is the same as this. It's Signet Chunky, and it's a British yarn, and I don't call that chunky at all. I call that worsted weight, and when I used it as a worsted weight. So there we are, quite a bit of yarn to use up. I'm not sure how big of a blanket it'll make, but if it comes out small, it can always be a rug rather than a blanket. It's not a bad day to be inside because right now it's very windy and pretty darned cold, and there are snowflakes flying all over the place. I'll show you what I've done so far on the I'm going to get this wrong every time, aren't I? No wool left behind blanket, which I'm calling no yarn left behind because I don't use wool. The first thing I did was I stuck it all in this big pink pumpkin bag that I made a few years ago. And I decided which order I want the colours to go in, partly based on how much I had of each colour, but also I thought it would make a pleasing arrangement. So at the moment, I only had the 3 balls of yellow. They're very, very similar. There's 2 the same, and then this is slightly golder. Golder? Is that a word? So I have started with the yellow in the center because that is going to quickly change to something else. And that's the beginning of my blanket or rug. It's going to be a pretty mindless project. Once you get the first 4 rounds done, you put markers in, and I'm going to have to buy some more of the little locking stitch markers because I can never find enough when I need them. But I'm using yarn right now as my markers. So you mark the first half double of each increase, and then you work your way around to the next marker. So if you imagine I'm going to be going along to this marker. So just before this marker, I'm going to stop here, move the marker up to the one I just made, and then do another one in this stitch to make an increase. And then you go all the way to the next one and so on. So at the moment, there's a lot of stopping and starting. But as it gets bigger, the 8 increases are going to be spaced out far more over the blanket. So there's going to be quite long stretches where you're not having to stop and move a marker up. A little messy just there. There's a couple of little loopy bits there, but never mind. It'll be fine in the long run. And the hook I decided to use was a 12mm Pro Waves. One thing about the shafts on these, sometimes they could do with being a little bit longer, especially when you're using bulky yarn. But the handle's really comfortable, and I really do love these hooks. So we are off to the races. Well, the weather did a little bit of everything today. We had sun, we had snow, we had sleet or hail sort of stuff, and rain. After I had done a fair amount of crochet today and Mr. Stitches had done his office work downstairs, we went out for a walk about 3:30, and yeah, we got pretty wet. I didn't put my proper shoes on either. I put my Skechers on and I was like, oh yeah, it's not that wet out there. It'll be fine. Well, it was a little damp and a little slippery too. So I should have put my hiking boots on, but there you go. Live and learn. When I got back, I was so damp all the way through. I just stripped everything off and put my Hello Kitty onesie on. So warm and cozy. I then got back on the couch. Okay, I did do a little bit of weight training and a little bit of yoga too, as well as the walking. But then I got back on the couch and I did more crochet, and the blanket is getting really big. I have used all of my yellows already and just about all of my oranges. So that feels really good. 12 mil hook and 3 strands of yarn grows super quick. So now I thought I probably should stop crocheting for the rest of the day because I don't want to overdo it. I've had my dinner and I'm down here now. I'm going to go through my quilt cottons because I need to pick some fabrics for a tutorial for those padded pouches for embroidery projects, not products. So all of these containers up here have my quilt cottons in, and I'm going to bring them down and have a good rummage. It's super early, but I'm feeling really sleepy. All that fresh air and then pizza has made me just want to go to bed early. So I'm not going to start any sewing tonight because I think if I'm feeling this tired, I'm probably not going to do a very good job of it. But I have made some notes. I've written out all of the measurements that I think I need to cut. I'm going to cut it a little bit generous so that it'll probably be a little larger than I originally planned. Because there's no need to skimp on size, because if you want to put a cross-stitch kit in there, you know, bigger the better, I think. I have my thermolam ready. I have my fusible interfacing for the lining ready. What I would like to do is make all 3 of the bags, all 3 sizes out of this really cute pig fabric. It's adorable. And I have a meter of it, maybe a little over a meter. One of the fabrics I bought at the last minute on deep discount when Fabricland's store closed in my town. And for lining, I've got this linen look stuff. I have it in grey. They're not all going to match because the linings will be different. The grey will go into one. The dark blue will go into another. And the lavender will go into the last one. And I just realized I didn't calculate the cutting for the inside pockets. So I'll do that next. I will use zipper by the meter or by the yard. I haven't even cut into this. I've had this for months. Where's my scissors? I originally bought some zipper by the yard through my friend because she was putting an order in from Amazon a couple of years ago. And it was black tape with rainbow teeth, very subtle rainbow teeth. It wasn't really garish, but it was very pretty. And I use that on a lot of things, but it doesn't go with everything. I have to admit that much as I love rainbow zipper teeth, it does not go with everything. Let me just grab it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's the rainbow zipper teeth. It's actually brighter than I remembered. I haven't used it in a while. So rather than use that for my piggy bags, I'm going to use the newer one, which, as I say, I hadn't cut into yet. And it's just black zipper tape with silver teeth. And that's nice because I can just cut the length I need. When you buy commercial zippers that are a fixed length, you end up wasting a lot. So I'll be using that. And I have two kinds of zipper pulls for this tape. I bought extra ones because you get silver ones in the bag when you buy it. But I wanted to have some black ones as well. They're quite large, but I think they'll work fine. So just pretty unexciting, you know, nothing special. So that's what I'll use for that. So I have fabric sorted, I have my zippers, I have the snaps picked out, and the interfacing. So all I have to do now is figure out the pocket size. When I made the original bag, I had a little bit of clear vinyl lying around in my sewing room, and so I made this really basic clear vinyl pocket with bias binding around it. I just cut a piece of vinyl and I think I just sewed some binding around it, folded it, sewed down the sides and put a snap on it. And I get to put a second snap on it so you can snap it inside the bag. I don't think I have any clear vinyl left, and I don't really want to go and buy any. I would have to probably go for quite a long drive to get some more, and I don't know, I like the aesthetics of a cotton bag with a cotton pocket better than a plastic pocket. So I'm going to put a slip pocket inside, but it'll have a little snap to keep it partially closed when it's being used so that things don't fall out too easily. And I'll just have to see what the maximum size of pocket is that I can put in there. I'm using this notebook here that looks like an old vintage sewing pattern. I bought these as a set of 3 from Amazon years ago, maybe even pre-COVID, I don't know, probably. And they've been absolutely fun to use because, you know, they just look like an actual sewing pattern on the outside. And I looked through both of these. I know I've got a third one somewhere, dropping pages. I know I've got a third one somewhere, but I don't know where it is. And I was hoping that by flicking through these, I might find the notes from when I made the first bag for that cross-stitch kit, but I could not find it anywhere. Normally I write things down as I'm making them and testing them out because then you know you can repeat it later. But yeah, I'm just going to have to wing this one. Well, I'll make educated guesses as to what I did. Not quite winging it. I have the original copy, so it's not too difficult. So I think for now I'm going to, just finish up here and then get back upstairs to the couch and look forward to tomorrow. It's classic Saturday for us, popping over to get some groceries and pick up some things at the library. I showed you that Katie Bowman book last time, all about alignment and keeping your body functioning and working well. And I think all of the other ones I put on hold are actually waiting for me now to pick up, in addition to some other things. So very exciting times, you know, library holds to pick up. So I will be doing that tomorrow. And yeah, maybe be going for another walk in another blizzard. I don't know what the weather forecast is for tomorrow. We shall see. Well, you guys, I can't believe it, but it's Saturday night and I still haven't done any sewing. The reason I haven't done any sewing today is that I am completely addicted to crocheting on this blanket. Completely addicted and obsessed. I'll show it to you in a second. First, I want to show you another thing I made just the other day. Isn't that cute? It's a little rainbow sunshine. And I'm going to put a pin on the back. And I'm going to add that to my uniform at work. Next to the snow person. Next to the snow person. So I'll have a rainbow snow person and a rainbow sunshine. Just for fun. Made with scraps of, what was it? Knit Picks Brava worsted. Yes. With a couple of safety eyes. There was almost not enough body for the backs of the safety eyes. I had to pad it with a little bit of yarn so that the backs of the safety eyes didn't poke out through the back of the crochet. So yes, this blanket, this stash busting blanket, I should have weighed it as well. I really should have weighed it, but I will. When it's done, I will weigh it. But it is now 40 inches across. And this is just from yesterday and today. Look at this. Isn't that amazing? So I stacked all my yarns in my bag according to the order in which I was going to use them. So we started with the yellows. And of course, the yellows don't all, hang on, let me just move the bag. The yellows don't all run out at the same time. So you bring in the strands of orange as you run out of a skein or ball of yellow, scrap of yellow. And so the oranges blend in. And then as you run out of the oranges and work through to the greens, they blend in. And the same with the blues. As the rounds get bigger, you might get some harder color changes, because there may be places where all three of the colors have changed when they touch each other. But mostly it blends really nicely. So at the moment, I've used up all my yellow, orange and green yarn that's in that bag, and I'm working on the blues, but they're going to take quite a while because I have, right now, I'm working on the inside of this blue cake here, and I'm not going to use the white part of it. So I'm going to finish up the blue in there and these two bits. And then I've still got these two light blues to use up. And then I can go on to the pinks and then the purples. I'm really looking forward to that part. So I really think that the designer, Johanna Lindahl, she came up with an ingenious way of increasing. It's only 8 increases per round, regardless of where you are in the blanket. But because of the way they're positioned, they don't make it look like an octagon. There's no hard edges. It's all just a nice curve around the edges. So I have been having so much fun with this. Don't worry, I did get outside today. I haven't spent the whole day on the couch. We did do the shopping in the library, and we did do a walk, and I did cook dinner. So I have been looking after myself, except this has been my craft of choice today. The sweater didn't get a look in. The sewing of the bags that I wanted to start didn't get a look in. But hey, it's Sunday tomorrow. Plan is get to the sewing machine tomorrow and start making the bags for the tutorial that I mentioned earlier. Yes, so lovely. Not sure how big it's going to be when it's done. Obviously, the bigger it gets, the longer it takes to get around there, but also the less it grows, the slower it seems to grow. As it gets bigger, it goes slower. That first bit just grew really quickly. So when I get to the end of the pinks and purples, I think after that, I've just got greys underneath the pinks and the purples, if I remember. And I'm thinking I may not have to use the greys, depending on how big it is when I've finished with the pink and the purple. I think the greys would frame it nicely. Not averse to using them, but it may not be needed, depending on how big I feel like making this. This is going to be a lovely big chunk of yarn, busted out of the stash. So exciting. So that's all I have to tell you right now. I am going to finish this video tonight and get it edited and uploaded. And I want to be able to focus on that tutorial tomorrow. I might not get it all made tomorrow because I want to get 3 sizes of that bag sewn up. But I do have a couple of days in the middle of the week where I think I'm off. So if I don't get everything finalized tomorrow, I can get this tutorial up by midweek probably. So for now, I'll say thanks for being here. Thanks so much for watching. And I'll see you again really soon. Bye for now.